Hi and welcome to Ryvis Rambles, where I talk about whatever the fuck I want. And in today's video, I want to talk about the birth of the Drama King. The drama is about the guy, Jia Qingfeng, who tries to befriend the leader of a demon sect, Ji Chuan. Jia Qingfeng is socially awkward, just like me, which is why he gets a manual from his master on how to befriend people. I'd like that book, please. The drama is based on a novel, but I prefer the drama because it fleshes out the story. It provides more context and gives a deeper insight into the characters. But the BI relationship is centered in the drama, of course, turning the pairing into blood relatives, which makes them essentially unshippable. The romantic chemistry still seeps through at times though, so if you pretend they're just sect siblings, then they're absolutely shippable. Anyways, let's start with the plot. Spoilers ahead. If you're only interested in my opinion, you can jump to this part. The very first thing we learn is that Yinbuhua, the head of the demonic sect, ironically known as the Holy Sect, is about to die, and one of his final orders to his adoptive son Ji Chuan is to eliminate the righteous sect Haodan Alliance. Aside from his adoptive father's order, Ji Chuan also has an objective of his own. He's looking for his missing younger brother. It took me tens of episodes to realize he's talking about a blood-related brother, by the way, not just a shidi, which usually would be the case. According to rumors, Ji Chuan has posters hung up on his wall of Jia Qingfeng, our protagonist. Jia Qingfeng is a member of the Haodan Alliance. He's known to be the best swordsman in the martial arts world under heaven, and Ji Chuan wants to fight him to claim the title. Jia Qingfeng's unnamed master, however, misinterprets the poster thing as Ji Chuan being infatuated by Jia Qingfeng and sees it as a perfect in for Jia Qingfeng to infiltrate the demonic sect. Jia Qingfeng, and I know I'm using that name a lot, but he wants to kill the demon sect leader Ji Chuan for murdering innocent people. His master tells him that that's too dangerous, because it might incite a war. Instead, he should infiltrate the demonic sect as an undercover agent by befriending Ji Chuan. But sweet Jia Qingfeng doesn't know anything about how to befriend others. Befriending is a euphemism for seducing, by the way. Luckily enough, Jia Qingfeng's master has written a self-help book on how to make a friend in 10 days, and Jia Qingfeng successfully manages to apply the tips from the book. And please do me a favor and listen to these tips yourself and tell me it's not about seduction.
你就不想知道在下是去哪儿的路吗？
本座不想知道。
你可以问问在下。
行了，去哪儿的路？
去你心里的路。教主，在下不让你走。教主今日着在下来七星堂打扫牌位，可是什么？可是带在下来见令尊的。
这招适用于若你实在需要别人帮忙又不知道怎么开口的情景下，可以尝试撒娇3件套。
你就答应在下呗，好不好嘛？
To gain Ji Chuan's trust, they spread rumor that Jia Qingfeng killed his Shishong, Zhang Lianzhou. But since the latter's not actually dead, they have to hide him.
老二，你要再这样敲下去，全世界都知道你没死呢。
Since Ji Chuan wants a fight, Jia Qingfeng agrees to accept his challenge and is willing to fight him in a year, if Ji Chuan leads him to his sect, to buy his sect some time. Ji Chuan, on the other hand, only wants to show him his sect once they fought. In the end, Ji Chuan relents and takes Jia Qingfeng with him after all. As mentioned earlier, Ji Chuan is searching for his younger brother. The two were separated during their childhood, and Ji Chuan searches for a man with a scar behind his left ear because his little brother has such a scar, and Jia Qingfeng just happens to have a scar behind his left ear. However, he doesn't remember his childhood at all. But the more time he spends with Ji Chuan, the more the memories of his lost past are triggered. Once they arrived at Holy Sect, Jia Qingfeng continues trying to befriend Ji Chuan and to find evidence that the Holy Sect wants to attack Haodan Alliance. Fortunately, he's not on his own, because they already have an informant at the demonic sect, Shaolin. Apparently, since they're on the same side, they're able to communicate mentally, which is convenient, Shaolin gives Jia Changfeng some advice on what the demon lord likes. One recommendation is to cook Ji Chun's favorite dish. Unfortunately, Jia Changfeng sucks at cooking, and despite being rather clumsy and continuously fucking up, for example waking up in Ji Chun's bed after a drinking session, as they spend more time together, Ji Chun slowly warms up to Jia Changfeng and offers him the position as his bodyguard. Another trusted aide is Ah Fu, Ji Chun's most loyal mate. Her task is to have an eye on Jia Changfeng, yet she develops an out-of-the-blue crush on him, which Jia Changfeng is oblivious about. To make things even more complicated, Shaolin has feelings for Ah Fu, and his infatuation is much more convincing than Ah Fu's crush on Jia Changfeng. Shaolin is super cheesy, but it's super cute.
我就想这样，紧紧地抱着阿福姐姐。
Now, since Ji Chun and Jia Changfeng seem to get along rather well, we obviously need to introduce some drama. Yin Buhe, Jin Jun's adopted father, has a biological son, Yin Jian. However, since Yin Jian had a rather weak constitution, he was sent to the Medicine Valley as a child to be trained to become a doctor instead of being a sect leader. Still longing for his father's approval, he returns to the Holy Sect disguised as Physician Yan of Medicine Valley, who used to be his teacher. Yin Buhe made him kill the real Physician Yan to prove his loyalty to his father. Unfortunately, the only thing the poor boy got out of this is trauma. When he arrives at Holy Sect, he tries to get rid of Jia Changfeng and Ji Chun with the help of Elder Wen, who's been sus of Jia Changfeng being a mole from the very beginning. Yin Jian, on the other hand, doesn't only want to get rid of Jia Changfeng because he's a potential renegade, but because he's jealous of his relationship with Ji Chun.
这个赵清风究竟是什么来路？怎么能让季川如此兄弟相待？
起来，教主，在下并非有意的。
又是赵清风，
请教主恕罪。
未经允许，随意挤出季川屋子不说，竟然敢打我！
The plan is to make it look like Ji Chun shot a renegade because it would help Yin Jian to reclaim Holy Sect under the name Yin. However, their scheme doesn't work. As a last resort, Elder Wen hires Hanya assassins to kill Jia Changfeng, but Ji Chun ends up poisoned instead. Ji Chun then has to take medicine which he hates because of its bitter taste. And yet, Jia Changfeng gets him to take it when no one else could, after receiving the second volume of his master's manual, which appears to be spicier than the first. In the meantime, Elder Wen also had a spy planted in Haodan Alliance, Gu Yifeng. Gu Yifeng is a young man who was rescued by Jia Changfeng in the beginning before he infiltrated Holy Sect. To avoid suspicion, Gu Yifeng becomes Shifu's new disciple, although rather reluctantly. It takes Haodan Alliance quite some time to realize that they have a traitor among their midst. Shifu then tries to find him by looking each disciple deeply into their eyes, without success. Back at Holy Sect, Ji Chun is convinced that Jia Changfeng is his little brother, which turns out to be true. Once Ji Chun has his confirmation, he wants to tell Jia Changfeng, but he wants it to be a grand gesture. He has this very elaborate and romantic plan that contains fireworks, but it gets ruined. When Ji Chun confesses, Jia Changfeng is too dense to get it at first.
本座是你哥，血缘兄长，听明白了吗？
教主的意思是，你是在下的兄长。
At least he needs a moment to understand. After a moment of bliss, Yin Jian ruins the situation by telling Jia Changfeng that his master was killed at Ji Chun's command. This naturally upsets Jia Changfeng, which upsets Ji Chun, which upsets Yin Jian. However, it's not entirely true. I mean, yes, Ji Chun was plotting against Haodan Alliance in the beginning because he thought their master had killed their parents. That, in turn, is also a lie told by Yin Buhe, who's the true culprit. Yin Buhe had a crush on Ji Chun and Jia Changfeng's mother. She didn't reciprocate his feelings, so he killed their father. After her husband's death, the mother committed suicide, which, okay, what about your sons?
好好活着，把孩子们带大。
Anyways, after the whole drama, Shifu, a good friend of the parents, came to pick up the boys, but only found Jia Changfeng. Ji Chun was missing because the kids were playing hide and seek. And Ji Chun is just too fucking good at hiding, I guess. Truth is, he just fell asleep and they just didn't properly look for him. They just fucking ditched him.
快走，我们回来再找啊！
And then Yin Buhe found him, and the rest is history. Now, what about Haran Alliance's master? He's still alive and kicking. Gu Yifeng was supposed to kill him, but after spending so much time at Haran Alliance, he couldn't help growing fond of Shifu and the others because they're just so genuinely kind. Instead, Gu Yifeng saved Shifu's life by cutting off his own finger and sending it to Holy Sect. But Jia Feng doesn't know that yet. He's incredibly disappointed, upset, and hurt, so he wants to leave. But Jichuan asks him to stay one more night to watch the fireworks with him. So they do, but while they're watching the fireworks, Jichuan betrays him again, claiming he always knew Jia Feng was a spy. They also arrest Shaolin, and both are thrown into the dungeon. But Jia Feng gives Jichuan the benefit of the doubt until he has concrete proof that he was the one who ordered the kill on his master. Turns out that Jichuan never really betrayed him but locked him up to protect him. This backfires when Yin Buhe, who everyone believed to be dead, returns and wants Jichuan and Jia Feng to fight to death, even if they're biological brothers. Jichuan wins and lets Jia Feng escape. And now is where things get a bit convoluted, to be honest. Yin Buhe had his plan leaked to Haoran Alliance on purpose to ambush and kill them. Now that Jichuan has proven his loyalty, he trusts him with the trap.
了却了这桩事，你我便要去处理下一桩了。
Jichuan naturally makes use of that trust to protect Haoran Alliance. He coincidentally meets Zhao Zhifeng's master in a hideout Jichuan had prepared in advance, where he learns the truth about the past, that it was Yin Buhe who killed his parents. Together they wait for Zhao Zhifeng, who is supposed to get back up. When they hear Zhao Zhifeng's signal, they need to distract Yin Buhe. Shifu wants to sacrifice himself, but Jichuan stops him and confronts Yin Buhe himself. Yin Buhe, who has finally acknowledged Yin Jian, wants him to kill Jichuan. But since Yin Buhe still treats him like shit, Yin Jian switches sides and helps Jichuan, who's always been kind to him, instead.
义兄，当心点，做戏还是要做完的，爹看着呢。
Zhao Zhifeng arrives late to the party, Yin Buhe is arrested, and we learn who Shaolin really is. He's actually an important person from the court who worked with Haoran Alliance to capture Yin Buhe, and his clown persona was just that, a persona.
在下本名萧林，此前使命未完，不得已隐瞒姑娘。
Or was it?
被我骗到了是不是？是不是吓一跳？
And thus, we have a happy end. But since Chinese censorship forbids the love interests of a BL to be together at the end, Zhao Zhifeng has to go off to a random lady, who apparently is his wife? It's not a fool because she ends up with Shaolin after all, luckily. She's a woman we've never seen before, so we just pretend it ends right here.
兄长，我还有一事。
And the thing Zhao Zhifeng wants to tell him is that he's in love! Woo woo! Full disclosure, this wouldn't be something I'd usually make a video about. It's sweet and worth a watch, but not as good as The Untamed or Heroes, for example. However, I wanted to present more Chinese BLs, so here we are. I have to say, when I started to watch it, I did enjoy it, but I was also a bit outweirded by the strange use of sound effects. Which I later found out seems to be common in such comedies. Apart from that, the quality of sound fluctuates greatly and there are some weird cuts sometimes. But since it was overall adorable, I couldn't stop watching, and I'm glad I didn't. I mean, it's funny for the most part, it's a comedy after all, but while other dramas can have some comedic elements as well, this drama has a tendency to go over the top. I'll just show you some of my highlights.
俺那个招情法咋的啊？
拉一下，怎么样？教主，
你在吵什么？
蛋啊，麻油炒蛋啊。跟本座学着点。学什么？学这个呀。
演技见长啊！你躲什么？
你脚下。
The last one was especially funny to me because while I know that in some cultures it's considered disrespectful to show the bottom of your feet, for example, I'm not a big fan of bare feet in general. Basically the complete opposite of foot fetishists, so it kind of felt like they catered to my preferences specifically. Speaking of preferences, my favorite character in this show is Shaolin. I've mentioned it earlier that he can be super cheesy, but he's so cute. One thing I love about him especially is the fact that while he tends to be goofy, he can be really mature when it matters. When he gets rejected by Hoffu, for example, he accepts it because of course it breaks his heart, but he wants her to be happy no matter what.
没关系，你坐在车里，我坐在车底，我一个人心动间，又算得了什么呀？
And seeing him so genuinely depressed broke my heart too. However, he still ends up with Hoffu, which was a huge relief to be honest, because they had great chemistry, but I'll get back to that later. Another character who can be really cute, mainly because he's super gullible, is Jotafong. He's an introverted hero with major puppy energy, who only wants to use his sword to save people, not to kill them. He's generally kind to the point where he even teaches his enemies how to fight properly.
就像这样。
He's also part of the Haran Alliance, who honestly feel more like a family than a sect, and I have to say the vibes remind me a lot of my own working place. Lastly, not related to Chao Cheng-feng but Haran Alliance, I also wanted to point out how accurately they depict classic writer struggles. I've been there. The next character I want to talk about is Jichun. First of all, I love the flowers in his hair and his character design. When I saw pics about this drama, I did not expect him to be this fierce. It feels a bit like he's the only one with a brain in the show, a bit like an audience surrogate, constantly wondering what the fuck is going on. He's literally surrounded by idiots and he's painfully aware of it, only to turn out to be one of the biggest idiots. He's a classic tsundere who quickly gets attached to his puppy, but not wanting to admit it. Though I have to cut him some slack because said puppy is his enemy. One of his most badass scenes, however, is in the last episode.
你这一身的剑术，都是我亲自传授给你的。只要你提剑，你永远无法抹去和我之间的关系。
既然义父如此说道，那本座就再也不碰剑了。
Which leads me to the next character, Physician Yan or Yin Jian. I don't have to say much about him, except he's very jealous. Only because of the brother stuff, of course, and nothing else.
那日下山，你当真与赵清风一道？
And he brings all the angst. I think his tragic past is what made me like him. At least it kinda explains his behavior and I feel for him. He's a poor baby boy and he deserves to be loved. I think he's the only one who doesn't get a happy ending, except for reconciling with Jichun.
本座继任了你做兄长，无论发生何事，本座都会一直在你身边，一直都会。
Another big topic I want to talk about is relationships, because that's where I feel like the drama's focus is on. As I mentioned before, the drama is based on a BL novel, which of course had to be censored, and yet the romantic chemistry between Jichun and Jotafang is still palpable, which left me feeling conflicted many times because I don't know about you, but I'm not into incest. Still, here's some evidence to prove my point.
这么多，吃不完岂不是成了你说的暴殄天物？
无妨，教主，你要是喜欢，吃了就好了。如果不喜欢的话，那在下便替教主吃掉。
在下爱吃糖葫芦。
怎么跟我家教主一样啊？
教主爱吃糖葫芦，所以最近吃的多了，觉得还挺好吃的。
教主，张嘴啊！
本座怕苦，笑话。
不可能！教主他每次喝药不费上2、3个时辰才不会喝下去呢。不可能，不可能，不可能！
所以此事非你不可。你想想看，自从大侠来了之后，你都快笑成花了，我看的。 都不习惯了，瘆人。
教主，在下告退。你关门做什么？属下。
To distract from the relationship, we have the forced romance between Jiao Jianfeng and Afu, which isn't very convincing because they have zero chemistry. Not even the Tanghu Lu vendors are buying it. Her crush appears out of nowhere, which I also mentioned before, and Jiao Jianfeng doesn't even realize she has feelings for him, no matter how open she is about them.
大侠，不是已经接受了阿福的心意了吗？
心意？什么心意啊？
Afu simply has a much better chemistry with Shaolin, and, well, they end up together, so all's well that ends well. I assume the romance between Afu and Jiao Jianfeng was added to pass censorship. A positive thing I wanted to point out about Afu, which was very relatable to me, is that she prefers money over flowers.
阿福姐喜欢什么花呀？玫瑰、水仙，还是向日葵？
我喜欢有银子随便花。
Then there are two characters that I haven't mentioned in my plot summary at all, but they have the best relationship in my eyes. Wei Qi and Yu Qingqing. Wei Qi is another loyal subordinate of Ji Chun, and Yu Qingqing is a prostitute. It was pretty much love at first sight, and they're just always so happy to see each other.
青青，青青，
七七。
That's true love in my opinion. Yu Qingqing was gender banned for the drama to pass censorship. Which brings me to the final topic I want to talk about, the novel. I always read the novels of BL dramas because I'm curious to see how the relationship was censored and how the main couple end up together in the source material. However, I have to say that the drama is much better plot-wise because it fleshes out the story and characters. They actually have much more depth in the drama. Also, the plot and the romance in the novel are so confusing despite the good translation. It felt a bit like the author doesn't usually write gay romance and just wanted a quick money grab. The only downside to the drama is that they turned the main pairing into actual blood brothers, so that you can't really ship them. They could have just been sect siblings, at least that would have left a less sour aftertaste. In the end, I think a mix of both the drama and the novel makes the story perfect. If you've watched the drama, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If listening to random people talking about random stuff on the internet appeals to you, leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear me ramble about, leave a suggestion in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!